In this video, I decided to recreate the Super Mario Party's bopping spree using Unreal Engine 4. In this minigame, the player's goal is to hit 20 targets as fast as possible. I thought this was a great opportunity for me to learn how to implement complete systems and bind them together in order to replicate the original as much as possible, so I decided to recreate it. So here are the steps I had to take in order to recreate this minigame. Implement the player's actions and add AI behavior to the players. Create a system that selects a target on each side and count how many times the player hit the right target, ending the game when a team hits 20. And polish it by creating and adding meshes, UI and visual effects. Before starting, if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Now let's get right into it. I started things off by creating two character classes, one for the player and one for the AI, and added to both the ability to walk in a certain area of the level in such a way that the left player can only access the interior while the right players can only access the exterior. To limit this area, I used invisible blocking volumes that also modify the shape of the nav mesh. To implement the punch, I went to Mixamo and downloaded a punch animation which I then imported into Unreal. Using the animation blueprint system in Unreal Engine, I created 3 individual states for idling, running and attacking. To transition from idling to punching, I added a boolean which gets modified when the attack function is called. To hit a target, the player first does a box trace in front of it and detects if the hit object was the target. The reason I used the box trace instead of a line trace is to give the player better accuracy to their punch. To test this out, I added a custom mesh that would react to getting hit by playing an animation. For the AI, while the functionality was there, it couldn't use it until I created a way to select the target and score points. For that, I created a blueprint which consists of 16 targets, just like the one I used for testing, 8 on each side with a component tag that represents their color. To keep track of which target is currently active, I added all of them to an unordered map of skeletal meshes and booleans, and whenever they were hit, I checked if their corresponding boolean was true, in which case I reset the target, add 1 point to that team based on the tag I mentioned before, and select another target. The function that selects targets is pretty straightforward. When the game starts, a random target is selected for both sides and their boolean in the map gets set to true and changes the material on it. Once a target is hit, it calls a reset function which changes the material and boolean back to their default state. If no team reached the score of 20, the select targets function is called once again. In order for the punch to work with the AI, in its behavior tree I made it move to the current target, rotate towards it to make sure it won't miss, and call the punch function through a custom task. When a new target is selected, the AI aborts moving to the previous target through a custom decorator, which checks if the blueprint's target location matches the current location. With the backend now finished, it was time to start polishing. To get a Super Mario Party vibe, I had to create models and animations for the boxing ring and targets, and while I'm not by any means a modeler, I think they came out good enough for this minigame, although they are not very optimized. Besides models, I also created a carbon fiber material, the rounded square decal, and this. Whatever this is. 2 materials that I want to focus on are these two. They might seem weird, but they are actually these red and blue tints that you can see on the floor, which I think is pretty neat. To make the level more interesting, I created a progress bar-like material for the scoreboard and animated the centerpiece to show a color wave when one of the teams scores a point. Admittedly, these materials are generally pretty wacky, but they serve their purpose well enough for this minigame. Then, I added the UI elements, such as the beginning and finishing text, using the Super Mario 256 font by F. Suarez 913. To show the score pop-outs when hitting the right target, I converted the hit location of the punch to viewport space and translated the widget to that position. I also added an impact particle system at the hit location of the punch to give a better visual feedback to the player. To finish everything off, I added artificial life shafts, created the camera transition, and added some post-process effects such as bloom and color grading. And after some additional value tweaking, like the camera angle and FOV, here's what the final result looks like. If you want to play around with the project and get even more in-depth than I have gotten, the project files for this video are free to download over on GitHub. The link of the repository is available in the description. And that's it for this video. If you followed along, by now you should understand how you can implement a game loop. If you want to see other videos like this one, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos, and let me know right now through a comment which minigame from Super Mario Party is your favorite. And as always, thanks for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons for supporting me this month and helping me do what I love, and especially to these top tier supporters: Avirama FM, Badr Al Kahtani, Darklich NY, Giovanni Pena, Golden Glowmaster, Leonardo Pereira, and Xim369. For more resources regarding this video, make sure to visit its description. Once again, thank you so much for watching. See you again soon.